I got interested in parenting years ago. Really, I was working with abused children, and I realized just how important it was to get great parenting. Later on, I worked with runaway teens, and then I realized just how difficult it is when teens run away. Lots of families in crisis. And then later on, I had my own kids, and I realized how difficult parenting is. And that's when my husband and I took some classes, and we kind of said, wow, this is great stuff. Why didn't they send us home from the hospital with this? So that got me inspired to eventually wanting to share, and that's how I created Priceless Parenting. So there's online parenting classes, presentations like tonight, and coaching. So to begin with, what I want you to do is think back to the last time your child behaved in a way that wasn't quite what you wanted, okay? You're kind of misbehaving, okay? Got that in your mind? Now I want to know, how were you feeling? Anybody got a feeling word for me? Yeah.
Frustrated.
Frustrated, thank you.
Resentful.
Resentful, thank you.
Out of control.
Out of control. Anything else? Good words. Anybody feeling angry?
Yeah.
Angry? So have you ever noticed you never come to one of these talks and the person up here says, okay, we're going to have a little session on how to get angry. We're going to work on that. And the reason we don't need to work on that is most of us are pretty darn good at it. And it comes natural. When our kids misbehave, it's pretty easy to feel pretty angry. And so if it's so natural, then what can possibly be wrong with getting a little angry? Well, what's wrong potentially is that we do not use our absolute best parenting skills when we're feeling angry. We might say things that are, for example, too severe. Like, I'm never taking you here again! Even though we probably do have to go back to grandma's or school or Safeway. We might come up with some idle threats, like, I am just gonna leave you here, even though abandoning our kids at McDonald's is against the law. We can't be doing that. We might come up with shaming, saying things like, I can't believe you just did that, you know better than that. Okay, even though we know that when we put people into shame, it's not motivating for them to change their behavior. Sometimes we even come up with punishments that we regret. We might say, listen, you are grounded for a month. Then later on we think about, do we really want to spend a month in our house with our child? Maybe not the best idea. So why is it we come up with these things to say? Well, part of the issue is when you get angry, your brain starts getting flooded with chemicals, and you really can't stop that. I've got plenty of stories from my own past, I can tell you that. No, it starts happening. The cortisol, the adrenaline, it starts pouring into our brains, and it affects our ability to think well. And so that's kind of why we often come up with these reactions we wish we wouldn't have said. And when we do this, part of the problem is kids tend to focus on us and our out-of-control behavior instead of what they did wrong and what they might want to do differently in the future. They also, it's pretty darn cool if you're a kid to wield that kind of power, to make my face turn red, steam coming out of my ears. This is pretty neat. Okay, so they get some power. And the other piece of the anger is that a lot of times our kids will learn to avoid our anger, but they won't really learn to do better behavior. And we really want them taking that self-discipline on, not just behaving because we're around and we're going to start yelling at them if they mess up. So what am I suggesting you do instead of get angry? I'm suggesting empathy. And empathy is a lot more difficult than getting angry. It takes a lot of practice. And what I'm talking about when I say empathy is it's really the ability to stand in someone else's shoes without judgment, recognize their emotions, and communicate your understanding of what they're going through. So that's not easy. It's a skill that requires practice. You don't just say, okay, I'm an empathetic person, I have it, let me put a star on my chest, I'm empathetic. You gotta kind of prove it day in and day out. And we all make mistakes doing it. And if you try to fake it with your kids, they are going to notice it right away, and it's going to come off typically as condescending. They are not going to feel like you're being empathetic with them. So if empathy is not your natural response, like it was not my natural response, it feels a little odd at first. So I want to show you that by having you fold your arms. So just everybody fold your arms. Okay. Now that you got your arms folded nicely, fold them in the exact opposite way. So whatever, kind of switch swap. I know, and it took me practice just being able to do this. But how does that feel? Kind of odd, awkward, yeah. Okay, so if you did that though every day and practiced it, it would feel It takes some practice before it feels natural, unless you just happen to naturally respond with empathy. All right, so the thing I like about empathy is it's like putting your arm around your kid and you and your kid on the same side and their problem or bad decisions over here. So we're working together as a team. And the real trick I found between responding with anger and responding with empathy is to catch that piece right between when your kids behave and when you respond. So I'll pull an example from my own background. I've been practicing empathy for a couple years. Now I kept getting it wrong, and then I go back and say, well, how could I have handled this differently? But in this example, I had just gotten dinner ready, and I've been spending, it always takes me about twice as long to get dinner ready than I think it's going to. Okay, so by the time I'm putting it on the table, what I want is everyone to sit down and we're gonna have a nice dinner, okay? That's what I want. So Blake must have been, my son was, I don't know, 7 or so, and he wanted to pour his own milk. And so I said, do you want help with that? No, Mom, I've got it. And you know how you know it's probably not gonna go well? You just kind of plan. Sure enough, it spilled. And instead of what I might have done before, which was that, oh, Blake, how could you, no, you need to be more careful. That would have been my angry response. But instead, I said, oops, well, you know where the rags are. And I kept enjoying my dinner. And he already felt bad that he spilled the milk. There was no reason that I needed to, like, be yelling at him. But it's just kind of the typical thing I do until I kept practicing. One more example. So let's say we're asking our kids about breakfast. And we're going to actually be so nice as we're helping them get breakfast. So we say to our children, what would you like? Would you like cereal, toast, yogurt, or pancakes? And our child chooses cereal. Okay, so he says, I like cereal. Okay, so we go get the cereal, pour it in the bowl, add the milk, and as we place it down in front of our child, he looks at us with those sweet eyes and says, I changed my mind. I want toast. Now, if I say, listen, you asked for cereal, I got you cereal, and you eat it, that would be angry. Okay, so that's not what I'm trying to do. The more empathetic thing would be if I could imagine myself. Have you ever been in a restaurant where, but you order something and you're with a group of people, and when it comes, you realize that what you ordered looks so much better than what I ordered? Okay, so that if I can kind of think of a situation like that, now I can understand how my kid might be feeling. So the empathetic thing I might say is, oh, bummer. Well, tomorrow you can definitely have toast. Okay, so that's me being as empathetic in front of you guys as I can pull off at the moment. And one more thing I want to leave you with is a tool that I learned about by Naomi Aldor in her book, Raising Our Children, Raising Ourselves. And I think empathy is difficult, and having her little salve process, I think, really helps me out. So what I want to do is I'm going to tell you a story from her book, showing you what that process looks like. And you should have that written down. Do you guys all have handouts? Okay, good, because I don't want you to have to worry about writing it down. But I'm going to go through a story once, and we're going to do one more story, and then we'll have the process down. Okay, so the story that she tells is we've got 9-year-old Jake, and he's playing Monopoly with his sister, and he is about to win. But his sister Ella leaves the game. So he comes crying to Mom, saying, I want to finish the game, I was so close to winning. Okay, so the beginning of her process is S. We separate ourselves from our child's behavior with silent self-talk. So it's going to happen in my head. We're going to have these thoughts, but we're not going to say them. So this mom was thinking, I can't believe how inconsiderate and unkind Ella is acting. It's not okay for her just to walk away and not just because she's not winning. I feel like yelling at her and demanding she get back here and finish that game. Okay, that was all in my head. Okay, didn't say anything. Now, A, we pay attention to our kid. Once we've had our little silent fit in our head, we're going to shift our attention over to our child and see what's going on. So I looked at Jake, who was crying and pounding his fist in his hand. The L part is we're going to listen. We're going to listen to what our kids are saying and what their actions are indicating, because a lot of times it's what they're doing that also communicates a lot. We're going to ask questions that's going to get them to say even more. So in this case, Mom says, so you were excited because you had a chance to win. I'm sure I was going to win. Are you disappointed you didn't get to finish the game? I'm mad. I want to finish the game. Okay, so now we've had our little dialogue. The V part is we're going to validate our kids' feelings that they're expressing without adding our own drama. So we're not going to get into the many times our brother or sister left and how irritated we were. We're just going to stick with this situation. So Mom says, I hear you want to finish the game and are mad that Ella won't play. I was so close to winning and that's why she stopped. You're probably right. Okay, so they'll be validated. And then the E, we're going to empower our child to resolve their own upset by getting out of the way and trusting that they can figure this out. And so, in this story, Jake actually calmed down after feeling hurt, and he decided, he said, you know what, I'm just going to put the game away, and I know that I won. And that was the end. So that's the process. Let's try it one more time, only this time we got our son who was busy playing video games one night. Okay, another story. And I'm pretending I'm the mother here. Okay, and so I asked him, don't you need to finish studying your spelling words? Do you ever play video games back there? Do you have any video games? No? No, okay, we got one boy in the whole audience and he doesn't play video games. Great. Okay, well this little boy, my son really does like playing video games. So I said, don't you need to stop playing a video game and kind of do some work on your spelling words? He says, oh no, Mom, I've got it. Stop worrying, I'll be fine, I'll be fine. Okay, so he's got it down. So then, guess what? Next day, comes home from school, and I said, how'd the spelling test go? He said, looks down and says, I failed it. Ooh, okay, so let's start the process. S, separate ourselves with the silent self-talk. So I'm thinking, I told you so, I told you so. Didn't I warn you that this would happen if you didn't study some more? You told me to stop worrying. Stop worrying, Mom. But look what happened. How are you ever going to get out of second grade, let alone college, and get into college? So okay, all in our heads, all in our heads. You're not saying this. Now we're going to look at our child. And I looked at my son, who was looking quite sad, and I listened to what he says. We looked at one another, and he said, I thought I knew the words. I really did study. I thought I knew it. I don't know what went wrong. And he says this a few times, and I nod my head, and I stay close. V, we're going to validate those feelings. So I say, so you're sad that you thought you studied enough, and yet the test didn't go well. And I said the same thing a number of times in different ways. So he feels understood. And then the E, this is the tricky part, this is the hard part most parents have, is we have to get out of the way and let him figure out what he's going to do. So in this case, he said, well, the teacher said I could retake the test on Friday. I think I'll go write down the words a couple times. That should help. Okay, so that's what he's come up with for his solution. So that's the SAV process. And you can try it out with your kids, your spouse, your friends. It really works with everyone. So for example, let's pretend you come to me and you say, I can't believe my boss. He expects me to get the work of 3 people done. This is ridiculous. I have had it with his crazy demands. And I say to you, your boss is so unreasonable. Why don't you just quit? Okay, how do you feel about me? Now, or would you rather I have used the SAV process and kept those thoughts to myself, paid attention to you, validated your feelings, listened to you, and empowered you to resolve it for yourself? Try it out, and you'll find your way into turning anger into empathy. Thank you. Any questions? And if you want to sign up for my newsletter, the newsletter for this month is on looking for solutions rather than using anger and consequences. So if you're interested in more, either fill out that little form at the bottom or sign up on my website. Either way will work. Any questions? No? Well, great. Well, thanks for being such a great audience.